Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Dear Zander Mander. I've got a special edition for you with a special question. Tonight's question is, that question's really kind of hard to answer, so I'm not going to say who the greatest star of all time is. I'm going to list down the top 20. And this list was compiled by facts that I read for people's accomplishments in that, and the rest of it was I took a poll through social media and asked all of you out there who you thought the greatest star was. So we got top 20. We're going to count them down from 20 to number 1. But also, we've got Rosemary again this week. Let's check in with her real quick. I know she's outside right now, having a glass of wine, having some fun. Hi, Rosemary.
Hi, Z.
Now, Rosemary didn't compile a list of her top 20. She did her top 10. And she did hers a little bit differently than I did mine. Now, hers are all men, all one category, all actors. I asked her why they were all men, and she said, quote unquote, because I'm strictly dickly.
Absolutely.
Hello! I told her we have a lot in common. So, Rosemary, we'll get to yours in just a moment. Let's get to the top 20, starting off with number 21. I'm just kidding. Number 21 is actually an honorable mention, because if it weren't for number 21, our honorable mention, we would never have been able to see or hear anyone in the top 20. Thomas Edison, the inventor of the phonograph, the motion picture camera, and the light bulb. If it weren't for those three things, we would not be able to have seen, photograph, or hear any of the stars that we have coming up in the top 20. So, honorable mention, Thomas Edison. Now, I do want to say, I know that Rosemary has stuck with one category, all actors. The top 20 that I have for you does include some actors, some actresses, but there are others in here too that I think were stars, and I checked out things on them, and they deserve to be in this list. So not everyone on this list is specifically an entertainer. Ready to find out who the top 20 is? Okay, let's go. Oh, did you break out your champagne for this list, by the way? Go and get it. I'll sip on mine while you do. Number 20 is a tie between two people who are extremely famous and known around the world. What they're known for, almost primarily, is for changing their natural image into the image that we see them in. The tie for number 20 is RuPaul and Joan Rivers. RuPaul, the most famous drag queen in the entire world, who changed his looks all through makeup, wigs, and gowns, and contouring, and glamour, and glitter. Miss Joan Rivers, the queen of plastic surgery. But also, you gotta admit, Joan is the most famous comedian in the world. She sells out concerts and shows all around the world. She's known everywhere. And yes, she is probably the most famous comedian in the world, but she's also the most famous patient of plastic surgery around the world. So my tie for number 20 are the two people that are known for looks that aren't naturally their own. Neil Armstrong, first man to walk on the moon? You have to be a star to be able to walk among the stars. You see, I told you not everyone in this is going to be an actor or an actress or a rock star or a music star. There are going to be stars in here that have done other things, that made them a star, that made their name around the world and put their mark in history. Neil Armstrong was one of those people. Coming up, we've got men, women in the music industry, in the acting industry, and athletes, and we've even got one that's got more than 2 legs. And I can guarantee you, you will not find anyone like Angelina Boney. Oh, Joe, what's her name? I call her Boney because bitch needs a cheeseburger. I mean, really, come on. Hello? William Shakespeare. Let me ask you this. Would literature be what it is today? Would plays and films be what it is today without the writings of William Shakespeare? Everyone knows who he is. We may not all like his works, but we all know of his works, and his works have inspired many, many other writers, playwrights, screenwriters. It's just, he's a star. He's a star. His name has gone down in history, and his name will continue to go down through history and be up there at the #1 spot in literature. Secretariat. I told you I had someone in here who had more than 2 legs. Secretariat riveted the world when he broke the records for the Triple Crown. There are 3 races for the Triple Crown. He broke all those records, won the Triple Crown, and to date, his records still stand. Secretariat is listed at number 35 of the greatest athletes of all time. You want to know why he's on this list? You want to know why he's listed one of the greatest athletes of all time? Here's the final race. Watch this.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Everybody's in line, and they're off. Looks like the early lead goes to My Gallant. Yes, My Gallant going for the lead with Twice the Prince on the outside. Secretariat away very well, has good position on the rail, and in fact is now going up with the leader. They're moving for the first turn. It is Secretariat. Sham on the outside is also moving along strongly. And now it's Sham. Sham and Secretariat are right together into the first turn. My Gallant has third behind them. Then it's Twice the Prince, and the trailer is Private Smiles as they go by the turn. Those two together, Sham on the outside. Sham getting ahead in front as they move around the turn with Secretariat second. Then there's a large gap. Make it 8 lengths back to My Gallant in third and Twice the Prince fourth. And Private Smiles is still the trailer. They're on the backstretch. It's almost a match race now. Secretariat's on the inside, by ahead. Sham is on the outside. They've opened 10 lengths on My Gallant, who is third by ahead, with Twice the Prince fourth. Then it's another 8 lengths back to Private Smiles, who is trailing the field. They continue down the backstretch, and that Secretariat now taking the lead. He's got it by about a length and a half. Still Sham, 10 lengths back. My Gallant, Twice the Prince. They're moving on the turn now. For the turn at Secretariat, it looks like he's opening. The lead is increasing. Make it 3 and a half. He's moving into the turn. Secretariat holding on to a large lead. Sham is second, and then it's a long way back to My Gallant and Twice the Prince. They're on the turn. Its Secretariat is blazing along. The first 3/4 of a mile in 1:09 4/5. Secretariat is widening now. He is moving like a tremendous machine. Secretariat by 12. Secretariat by 14 lengths on the turn. Sam is dropping back. It looks like they'll catch him today as My Gallant and Twice a Prince are both coming up to him now. But Secretariat is all alone. He's out there almost a 1/16 of a mile away from the rest of the horses. Secretariat is in a position that is impossible to catch. He's into the stretch. Secretariat leads his field by 18 lengths. And now Twice a Prince has taken second, and My Gallant has moved back to third. They're in the stretch. Secretariat has opened a 22-length lead. He is going to be the Triple Crown winner. Here comes Secretariat to the wire. An unbelievable, an amazing performance. He hits the finish.
Number 16 is another athlete, proclaimed the greatest athlete in the world. Not self-proclaimed, but proclaimed by all these reputable sources. If you want to know why he was proclaimed the greatest athlete of all time, if you want to know why he's on this list as a star, here's his list of accomplishments. Number 15 is someone that I didn't want to put on the list, but I had to because of you and because of her accomplishments. Bitch said she was going to go out there and take over the world, and she did. But her record sales, her concert sales, her popularity, she's a star. She's somebody that everybody knows. It's Madonna. All I could say is, cheers, Madonna. Not a fan, but cheers. Number 14 happens to be the person that they say that to this day is the most photographed person in the world in history. And that is Princess Diana. She's on this list not just for being the most photographed person in the world, but because of who she was and the things that she accomplished and what she did. She was a humanitarian beyond humanitarians. She was the people's princess, and she broke the balls of the English monarchy. Gotta love that. Little rebel out there, wasn't she? But seriously, if she didn't do the things that she did within that monarchy, it wouldn't have changed the way that it has changed in the past 20 years. And it has changed. And all for the better, I might add. Okay, here we go into the entertainment industry a little bit deeper with number 13, who happens to be the most nominated, probably the most acclaimed actress of all time, Meryl Streep. What can I say about number 12 except Hunka Hunka Burnin' Love? Oh my gosh, this guy was gorgeous. He's still famous today. And, oh, what a voice. There was only one. There was only one Elvis. We all know it. He deserves to be on this list, and here he is. Number 11 is going to go to Miss Technicolor Tessie herself, Miss Lucille Ball, or as all of us affectionately know her as, Lucy. There are so many things that Lucille Ball has done. Not only was she an actress, a comedian, but Lucy and her husband did something that revolutionized the way that television shows are filmed, even up to this day. Have you ever heard of the one camera shot and the three camera shot? Well, back when Lucy was doing her show, all shows were done with one camera. They would do the scene with the camera, film it, then they would move the camera and everybody would do the scene again, and then they would do the scene again, moving the camera and again and again and again. Well, Lucy and her husband, Desi, said, no, 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 no. So what they decided to do was they put three cameras on the stage and filmed all three cameras at the same time. That way, they only had to do the scene one time. Maybe twice, if Lucy cracked everybody up, which I'm sure she did. But the three camera angle was created by Lucy and Desi. They also owned movie studios, production studios. They did so many things other than being comedians. Now, before we get to my top 10, we're going to check in with Rosemary because she has her top 10. Rosemary, are you ready to give us your top 10?
Absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you had a glass of wine first?
Absolutely.
Is it still all going to be all men?
Absolutely.
Are you still strictly dickly?
Absolutely.
All right then. Give us your top 10, dear.
Number 10, Sidney Poitier. Why? Great actor. He's got one Oscar nomination. My favorite movie of his was In the Heat of the Night. They call me Mr. Tibbs. But did you know that prior to him becoming a world-famous actor, Sidney Poitier was a taxidermist? True story. One day, he goes into this bar in Alabama, and he orders a white wine. And all these white guys are standing there, and they look at him and they say, "You ain't from around here, are you?" And he said, "No." And they said, "Well, where you from?" And he said, "I'm from California." And they said, "Oh, and what do you do in California?" And he said, "I'm a taxidermist." And they said, "Well, what the hell is a taxidermist?" And he says, "Well, I mount animals." And the bartender said, "Don't worry, guys, he's one of us." Sir Richard Burton. He's had no Oscars, but he had 7 nominations. And my favorite movie of all time from him was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. But did you know that prior to him becoming a world-famous actor, Sir Richard Burton was a greeter at Walmart? True story, wouldn't make this up. Listen, one day he was there greeting people, and this really ugly fat woman walks in with 2 even uglier kids. And she's yelling at them, and she's being rude, and she's smacking them all around because they're totally misbehaving. And so Richard goes up to her and he says, "By the way, are these children twins?" She goes, "Twins? What the hell would make you think that they're twins? One is 7 years old, the other one is 9 years old." And he looked at her and he said, "Because I can't believe you got laid twice." James Cagney. He's had 1 Oscar and 3 nominations, and my favorite movie of all times by him was Angel with Dirty Faces. But did you know that prior to James Cagney becoming this world-famous actor, he actually worked in the railways? As a matter of fact, I have a story of when he first started. He goes for this interview, and the interviewer says to him, "What would you do if the train is leaving the station and it's about to derail?" He says, "Well, I'll just press the button to stop the derailment and keep, the tracks in place." And he goes, "Well, what if the button was broken?" He goes, "Well, then I'll just go out there and turn the lever, and do it manually. This way it'll stop it." And the interviewer says, "But what if the lever's broken and it would require a mechanic to fix it?" He said, "Well, then I would just go into town and get my uncle." And the interviewer said, "Why, is your uncle a mechanic?" And he said, "No, but he's never seen a train wreck." Kevin Spacey. Great actor. He's had 2 Oscars, 2 Oscar nominations, and my favorite movie of his is Unusual Suspects. But did you know that before Kevin Spacey became this world-famous actor, He was a farmer. Wouldn't make this up, true story. Listen to this. One day, this young lady comes onto the farm and she asks him, how come these cows don't have any horns? And he said, well, you know, sometimes, you know, the horns can do damage to the other animals. So what we do is sometimes we file the horns down, you know, to keep them from poking people or other animals. But in some cases, there are cattle that actually don't have any horns. But in this case, the reason why these cows don't have horns is because they're fucking horses. Russell Crowe. He's had 1 Oscar and 3 nominations. And my favorite movie of his was Gladiator. But did you know that prior to becoming this world-famous actor, Russell Crowe was a bartender? True story. One day, this girl comes into his bar and he's got a nice big rack. And he says to her, you know, I have the uncanny ability of telling a woman's age by simply rubbing her chest. She goes, get out of here. He goes, no, really, I can. So she goes, all right, let's see if it's true. So he takes her out in the back, and he's rubbing her and fondling and having a good time. And she's going, hey, I thought you said you could tell me my age. When was I born? What year was I born? When was I born? And he goes, yesterday? Clint Eastwood. He's had 2 Oscars, 7 nominations, and my favorite movie of his was Unforgiven. But did you know that before he became this world-famous actor, Clint Eastwood was a medical examiner? Can you believe that? A medical examiner. That's true. One day, this young student that was just learning, you know, all about the medical examiner type things, he goes into the morgue and he sees this body there, and he takes off the cover of the body, and the body is face down. And he looks at this body and he sees that the body has a cork in its asshole. So he takes out the cork, and all of a sudden he hears, on the road again, la-dee-da-da-da, on the road again. So he puts the cork back in, and he freaks out, and he goes to get Clint Eastwood, the medical examiner. He says, hey, listen, you gotta see this. This is freaking weird. And he goes, what? He goes, watch this. And he takes him to the body, and he pulls out the cork, and then he hears, you pick the fine time to lead me, Lucille. La, la, la. So he puts the cork back in, and Clint Eastwood says, well, what's so fascinating about that? Any asshole could sing country. Denzel Washington. He's had 2 Oscars and 6 nominations. And my favorite movie of all time by him is Training Day. But did you know that prior to Denzel Washington becoming this world-famous actor, he was an Indian chief? Serious. Here's what I found out. One day, this film crew was filming out in the desert. And Denzel happens to walk by, and he goes, hailstorm. And they're like, hailstorm in the desert? Sure enough, they got a hailstorm. The next day, comes back around, he says to the director, windstorm. Later on that day, a huge windstorm. So the director tells his secretary, listen, you got to get that chief. We got to keep him on here every day because he seems to know what's going on. He's, you know, he's got this thing with the weather. So they hire Denzel to be like their weather guy, right? So for the next, you know, few days or whatever, he's predicting boom, 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 you know, the rain, the this, the that, boom, boom. And then he goes away for a couple of weeks, and they don't know where he goes. So the director goes looking for him, and they find him, and they say, well, what happened? Where did you go? How come you didn't come back? And he said, radio broke. Tom Hanks. He's had 2 Oscars, 5 nominations, and my favorite movie from him of all time is Saving Private Ryan. But did you know that before Tom Hanks became this world famous actor, he was an eye doctor. True story. So listen to this. One day, this guy comes into his office complaining that he's got, some issues with his eye or whatever. So Dr. Tom Hanks takes a look, and all this stuff, and he tells him, you need to stop masturbating. And the guy goes, why, Doc? Am I going blind? And he said, no, but you're upsetting the other people in the waiting room. Al Pacino. He's had 1 Oscar and 8 nominations. And my favorite movie of all time by him is Scent of a Woman.
Scent of a Woman? Woo.
But did you know, prior to him becoming this world-famous actor that he is today, Al Pacino was a fisherman. As God is my witness. It's the truth.
And he's a fisherman? No wonder, Scent of a Woman. Whew. Hello.
And one day, he was out on the lake fishing. And there was another guy out on the lake. And he noticed that Al Pacino pulled out a mirror from his tackle box. So he rode over there, to talk to Al and see what the mirror is all about. And he says, hey, what do you use that mirror for? And he goes, well, what I do is I reflect it, use the sun to reflect onto the water, and then the fish, they see the light from the mirror and they come to the surface, and then I just go in and I scoop them right up. And the guy goes, wow, that is such a cool idea. Can I buy that mirror from you? I'll give you $30. And Al Pacino says, yeah, sure. So he goes, by the way, how many fish have you caught using that? And he said, you're my 6th one. Ha! Robert De Niro. He's had 2 Oscars, 7 nominations, and my favorite movie of all time with him was The Godfather 2, obviously, right? But did you know that before becoming this world-famous actor, Bobby De Niro was a urologist? No lie, telling the truth, urologist. And this is how I know. One day, this woman goes in to see him. She says she's been wetting the bed, and she's, concerned that she's becoming incontinent or something like that. So he says, all right, no problem. Take off all your clothes. Go stand on your head in front of that mirror. She goes, what? Said, well, he's a doctor. He must know. It must be a new thing, right? She takes off all her clothes. She stands on her head. She's facing the mirror. Robert De Niro goes over there and places his chin between her legs and looks in the mirror. He finishes that, tells her, okay, you can get dressed. She gets dressed. She goes, well, what's the problem? And he goes, well, you got to stop drinking liquids prior to going to bed, and that should solve the problem. And she said, well, what was with me standing on my head and looking in the mirror? And he goes, well, I wanted to see what I would look like with a beard.
You are shameless. You know that, don't you?
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank Rosemary for sending in her top 10, her Strictly Dickly top 10. Now let's get back to the rest of the top 10. As I said, this top 10 is researched. It was polled by you. So here we go with the top 10. Starting at number 10. At number 10, we have the EGOTs. Some of you out there know what I'm talking about. Some of you don't. EGOTs is E-G-O-T. E for Emmy, G for Grammy, O for Oscar, T for Tony. These people are the ones that have won all 4 awards. If there were stars in entertainment, these are the stars. Number 9. Number 9 is Queen Elizabeth. Why is she on this list? Hello? She's the fucking queen, that's why. Not queen of just England. She is queen of 16 countries. Check out this list. And not only is she just the queen of all these countries, she's a fashion plate. No one works a handbag and a hat like this woman does. Cheers to her. Ugh, I may be a queen, but honey, she's the ultimate queen. The music industry changed forever by our number 8. The biggest selling band of all time, even to this day. John, Paul, Ringo, and George, the Beatles. Number 7 goes to a woman that changed fashion forever. A woman that is a part of pretty much every woman's life, pretty much a part of every queen's life, because she gave us the one essential fashion piece, the little black dress. Number 7 goes to one of the greatest stars of fashion, Coco Chanel. Number 6 is going to a man who had a vision, who had a dream, and he shared his dreams with us. And those dreams and those visions are still shared today. Number 6 goes to the one and only Walt Disney. Started with a mouse and gave the world a house of ideas, a house of wonder, a house of dreams that we are still living today. Did you really think we were going to get through the show without any sex? Of course we have to include the greatest, probably the most beautiful, but absolutely the most well-known and most beloved sex symbol of all time, Marilyn Monroe. Number 4 belongs to someone that pretty much everybody in the world knows her by one name. She was a star of television, a star of stage, a star of movies, and a star of music. As I said, we all know her by one name, Cher. Okay, everybody, we're down to the top 3, and this was really, really tough. Because half of you, let me put down my champagne for this. Half of you were with this person. Half of you were with this other person. Oh, that doesn't include number 1. I'm talking about number 2 and number 3 here. It was bam, bam, bam for this one, bam, bam, bam for this other. So I did a lot of research on them. And they are being placed on your votes and on the research. So coming in at number 3 Okay, the one who beat out Michael was someone who actually deserved to beat out Michael for this list anyways, because they are two totally different types of entertainers, two totally different types of stars, but Michael had his accomplishments, which you just saw. And at number 2, we have
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me. Where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't
Okay, here we go. I'm sure you're all wondering who the number 1 star, the greatest star of all time is. Well, it's not just one person. It's many people. My vote, and I hope you all will agree with me on this one. My vote for the greatest stars, the greatest star, the greatest stars, the greatest star, the greatest stars, the greatest star of all time are all our men and women in uniform, our police officers, our firemen, and our armed forces. They are the stars. They are the greatest stars. It is because of them that we are safe. It is because of them that all these other stars that we've mentioned were able to become the people that they were. Because if they weren't kept safe, if they weren't protected, they wouldn't have had the freedom to do what they did to become who they were. Just like you and just like me. We can't be who we are. We couldn't have our freedom if it weren't for these people. So in my heart and my mind and in my life, I think the greatest stars of all time are our men and women in uniform. Thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure the bottom of all of your hearts out there. Cheers to our number one. I want to thank you all for joining me for another episode of Dear Zander Mander. Stay tuned for the next one. Let's say goodbye to Rosemary. Bye, Rosemary. I'll see you next time, okay?
Not if I see you first.
Girl, are you still drinking?
Absolutely.
Why am I not surprised?
Absolutely.
Do you love me, Rosemary?
Absolutely.
Do you love our fans?
Absolutely.
Do you love the questions, Rosemary?
Absolutely.
You joining us next time?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll see you then. Until I see you next time, you all do me a favor. You know what it is. You have fun and you get home safe. I'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.